Esports has done some incredible things. It's turned playing video games into more than just a hobby. It's brought together global communities of people who share a love of watching the absolute best competing, and most importantly, it's given this normie a job.
You suck!
But as big as competitive gaming has become over the years, and as much money has been poured into the scene, we still struggle to answer one important question. What exactly makes an esport? If you haven't already noticed, people love to argue about what is or isn't an esport, and it's something we see in our comment section all the time. But today we're going to settle that debate once and for all. And to do that, we have to go back in time.
What we do here is go back.
What he's doing is like a foreign language to me.
The first competitive gaming tournament was held in 1972 at Stanford University. And in a shocking twist, Stuart Brand, the guy who wrote the only article about it, wasn't judgmental at all. He described the competitors playing Space War as magnificent men with their flying machines, scouting a leading edge of technology.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Anyway, the tournament only had about 20 or so participants, and the grand prize was a subscription to Rolling Stone magazine. But as video games grew increasingly popular, the rewards for excelling at them became a lot more enticing. In fact, at Atari's 1981 Space Invaders Championship, thousands of players showed up for the chance to win a state-of-the-art computer.
Thanks, Head Start, for releasing my hitherto unsuspected intellectual prowess.
Over time, gaming competitions evolved from high-score contests on arcade machines to PvP battles in games like Street Fighter. While countries like South Korea were quick to establish government-run competitive gaming infrastructure, in the West, things were a little more relaxed. Most of the early tournaments were essentially just big LAN parties for games like Quake. But even in those formative years, some saw a bigger future for this new form of competition.
The way it's going, I mean, I'm surprised in the future they won't be classifying 3D games into an Olympic category, because it is taking skill, reaction time. You know, it's not just a game, it's more of a sport, really.
As competitive gaming continued to grow, people attempted to come up with a snappier name for it. And that led to some pretty terrible proposals. Like cyber athletics, which sounds like a version of the Olympics where athletes trade in their steroids for tech-enhanced bodies. Or e-gaming, the go-to for out-of-touch parents who struggle to make sense of little Johnny incessantly flossing in the living room. And there's also my personal favorite, V-gaming, because even if you lose your V-game, at least you'll always have your V-card.
It feels like a bag of sand when you're touching it.
Bag of sand?
Anyway, in 1999, the Online Gamers Association coined esports, and it stuck, despite having its own set of baggage, like its spelling.
Little e, little s, ports. No hyphen, no bullshit s, large one, little ones. And then if it's at the start of the sentence, it's really easy. What do you do with a normal word? You capitalize the first letter! Not the second one!
But perhaps the biggest problem with esports is that the name immediately invites comparisons to traditional sports. Just chuck the word out on social media and you'll see boomers starting to lose their minds.
It's still not a sport. Well, again, it's a game. You follow me what I'm saying here, Bernie?
I do.
It's video games. It shouldn't be on a sports network. It's video games.
Look, no one is arguing that esports are sports in the conventional sense. Championships aren't won through physical prowess. However, the two do share common ground when it comes to their mental demands.
They are digital athletes. They're professional digital athletes.
Like dumb wrestlers.
Well, no, look, when you think about, I think about what it took for me to become a professional athlete. It took a lot of concentration, a lot of dedication, practice, preparation, stamina. And the more I watched my son pursue this career, and the more I watched him introduce me to the world as it is, which is professional gaming. They're sponsored. They have careers. They make hundreds of thousands of dollars.
But if there's one signature characteristic of esports that truly discerns it from traditional sports, it has to be its consistent levels of cringe.
Team Magic Amy's very own Silent Storm, welcome.
Hi.
Okay. Thanks.
자기소개 부탁드립니다. We're here to win. I don't know. English.
Ibar, how is it that you're able to play with so much confidence on the world stage?
Look, I can sympathize with these kids. It's not their fault. How can we expect teenagers with still developing social skills to get in front of cameras and address huge audiences without being slightly awkward?
Yeah, I know people in their 30s with the same problem.
Exactly. Wait a second. Unlike their sports counterparts, esports pros aren't protected from the spotlight, and some even embrace it by streaming when they're not competing, which has made them far more accessible. And that's part of why esports has become so huge. The barriers between its stars and fans are almost non-existent. And as a result, enormous communities have rallied around these athletes, not just because they're amazing at popular games, but also because of their relatability. Okay, so esports aren't sports, but what exactly qualifies a game as an esport? Well, for one, it has to be playable competitively. That means multiplayer, so single-player games can't be esports.
Wait, what about speedrunning? Isn't that technically an esport because you're competing against others for the best time?
I guess that's true. Alright, so single-player games can be esports sometimes, but one thing that's a defining trademark of esports is the prize money. I mean, without tens of millions of dollars at stake every year, would people care about the international as much?
What about Smash Bros games though? They don't get much in the way of developer support or prize pools, but lots of people still tune into their events.
Alright. Big prize pools aren't essential for esports, but here's where we can definitely draw the line. You can't design a game to be an esport. True esports can't be forced. They start as a grassroots phenomenon, and when you try to artificially create them, they always fail. Just look at Amazon's Breakaway, which didn't even get a chance to come out and bomb before they killed it.
And if you do happen to get hit by the enemy, the relic will just pop straight up in the air.
Oh! Then again, Blizzard had esports plans for Overwatch during the game's development, and it still seems to be chugging along just fine.
But here come the dueling coalescences. Trichoven's off in a corner, he's a little bit low, he's going to force the meteor strike from Hackett. Oh! What? Incredible!
So if it's not money, a multiplayer component, or an organic rise, what is the most defining universal trait of an esport? Well, the answer to that question is community. Any competitive game can be considered an esport, as long as it has a fan base that wants to play and watch it seriously. What's a lot easier though is making the distinction between an esport and a major esport. That's a qualification determined by the scale of player bases, tournaments, and prize pools. And this is why we make more content about League of Legends than, say, World of Tanks.
How dare you!
Look, at the end of the day, I don't know that having a hard definition of esports really matters. The industry is growing fast, faster than almost any other space out there, and what we might not consider an esport today could very well be one tomorrow.
So you're saying there's a chance for Fortnite after all?
Absolutely not. Don't be absurd, Matt. And the grand prize was a subscription to Rolling Stone magazine. Oh, Rolling Stone. Gosh, Scoob.
Zoinks!
Zoinks.
Zoinks!
Snoochie boochies.
Snoochie boochies. Who the fuck talks like that? That is fucking baby talk.